I think that we are making history as we speak.
Now with the WNBA, they have women they can watch and aspire to be. For boys, just change the conversation.
Don't let anyone tell you that you can't do anything, because let me tell you, you can.
It's a historic time with historic progress.
Now, for the first time ever, 5 of Seattle's top public service positions are being held by women. I'm Casey Aitchison.
And I'm Alex Rozier. It's a moment that's really a few years in the making. It was in 2015 when the University of Washington named Ana Maria Cauce as the president of the school. She's the first Latina president, the first permanent female president at UW. And then in 2017, on Election Day, it was a big night for women because Seattle elected Jenny Durkan as the mayor. She's the first female mayor in this city in nearly a century. And on that same night, King County elected Mitzi Jo Hanknecht to serve as the next sheriff. She unseated the incumbent John Urquhart to win that position. But then in 2018, it got even better because in April of this year, Denise Juneau, she comes from Montana. She becomes the next superintendent of the Seattle Public School System. She's the first Native American superintendent in the school's history. Then you move forward to the summer months. In July, Carmen Best is named the next top cop. She's the next Seattle police chief, the first female African-American police chief. What a couple of years, Casey, it has been.
It is such a historic time. We thought it was best to bring all 5 women leaders together.
I want to ask about this room and this moment right now. And when you look around, what do you see in the women that surround you here?
I think it's a pretty special moment. I think it shows that in every profession right now, women are rising to the top. And you see it. If we filled this room with all the amazing women in Seattle, there'd be so many out the door. We are just at a moment in time where I think women are stepping up, stepping forward, and I just feel really honored to be here with this group.
I see a lot of dignity, grace, compassion, and women who know how to get the job done.
It's really amazing to see elected officials, to see women in power, and to see really women leading Seattle, and it's pretty awesome to be a part of that.
When I grew up, this would not have happened. You know, I can say actually things have changed. But then, you know, the younger students remind me we still haven't had a woman president of the U.S. We still, you know, all the progress we need to make.
I think the change is important for 2 reasons. One is I think it's really important for little girls to see they can do anything they want to do. But I also think it's really important for the boys to see women in those roles. And just recently I had a group of kids I was with, and one of the little boys came up to me and he said, "Can boys be mayor?" You know, and I thought because it's the only mayor he's ever met. And so it's good for him to be, you know, as they see women in more roles, then they don't think with the biases that women can't do things.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great thing that we're doing here, but wouldn't it be fun to get to a time where you wouldn't even have to have a show on women in power because it was just taken for granted, no big deal, not newsworthy.
Or we had all the power.
So that got us thinking, where else is this happening? Well, nowhere. But women are making progress all across the country. Right now, 40 states have women in Congress. And in the midterms alone, the people elected 14 women senators and 9 female governors.
So when it comes to women in leadership, how much progress have we really made? For perspective on the bigger picture, we asked Dr. Sutapa Basu, Executive Director of the Women's Center at the University of Washington.
Well, I think as women, we have come a long way. However, I also think we have a long, long way to go. I know everybody's excited because we have several women in leadership position in Seattle, which is wonderful, as it should be. But for us to remind ourselves, it took almost 100 years to elect another mayor. It took 150 years, almost 150 years, to hire a permanent female president of the university. So yes, you know, I hope in the future it doesn't take that long. Especially, you know, we forget women are 50% of the human race. And given that we are 50% of the human race, everything we talked about so far, they're just not women's issues, they're family issues, they're community issues, they're societal issues. And, you know, even today, unfortunately, a woman has to be twice as good in order to have the same job as a man. We would like to think we have made some progress, but in reality, it's still the same. We still have to be twice as good. to have the same position. So yes, we have a long way to go.
I think we got to start early in education. I mean, if you look at in South Lake Union, where we have all these amazing tech jobs, and you look at the demographics, most of them are filled by men. And if we want girls and women to fill those jobs of the future, we got to start in preschool and kindergarten, grade school, to making sure that we're getting equal skills and balance.
It is about being intentional and putting young women of color in spaces where there is power present and making sure that they are included in the conversation.
Diversity is important, but diversity, I've always said this, is not inclusion, right? So you need to make sure that, yes, it looks diverse, but are you including everyone and all the voices that you can at the table?
Yeah, and I think the other thing is, whatever you are, I think what you see here, and I think that women have to be better about, is once we get through the door, we got to make sure it stays open. And for everybody. And we've got to, that's the thing that I think we haven't been as good at over the years is making sure, pushing that door open and keeping it open, and not pulling up the ladder to the treehouse, but making sure everyone gets in that treehouse.
These women in power told us that rising through the ranks hasn't always been easy.
Listen to some of the stories they shared with us.
I've actually, responded to a call where somebody was like shocked. This is when I was brand new. That this, like, where's the cop? It's me. Or they're gonna. Do you have a partner or somebody else? Nope, it's just me. So you're gonna give me that report, or you're not gonna have one. You didn't harbor any, ill will or anything for the person, but just recognize, they've got to work through that for themselves, and I just have a job to do.
When I was doing my dissertation defense, one of the faculty members, who was male, not my advisor, asked me to get him a cup of coffee. But the other one is the first time I went to the faculty club at the University of Washington, I'd just gone to an orientation, and I'd met another young woman who was in education, who was also Latina, and we were talking Spanish as we were entering the faculty club, and some guy gave us his coat.
Wow. I can remember trying a case where a similar thing happened. I walked in the courtroom, and the opposing lawyer I had not met before, and he turned to me and said, "Oh, well, could you get the coffees and the water?" And I looked at him, I thought, okay, I'm just going to do it. So I got the coffees and the water, and I brought them in, and the judge came in, and she said, "Now, Ms. Durkin, did you have any motions?" And I stood up, and the look on the guy's face was worth it.
It's a subtle way to solve the problem.
Yeah.
There's always a lot of unsolicited advice, right? Well, let me give you 5 pieces of unsolicited advice. It's like, okay, well, it's like we should have a dialogue and conversation and maybe get to the advice, or I will ask for it if I need your advice. But it's also, I think there's just a lot of those types of situations that go on as well.
And I think most of the time, you got to take it with a grain of salt, and you let it roll off your back. Every once in a while it gets to you.
Right.
These women didn't get where they are today on their own. They had inspiration, and we're going to be hearing about some of their role models straight ahead.
I do think that there's something very special about being mentored by someone that looks like you, that's had similar experiences, but my key mentor was an African-American straight man.
And we asked you online to submit photos of inspirational women in your life. Here are just a few of many. Welcome back. Those are photos that you shared with us online of inspirational women in your life, and I think it's pretty safe to say there is always someone who has helped along the way.
We had the chance to speak with Seattle's Women in Power about their role models. Was there a specific individual, when you think of people in your life, who inspired you?
Ooh, that's an easy one for me. I go with my mom. Yeah. She's a tiny woman, just like 5'4". My mom and dad came from the Midwest, and she came out here and raised 5 kids with my dad, and she was really always an inspiration to me.
Former chiefs, and certainly even my first sergeant, my first supervisor, who's also now one of my best friends, Sergeant Pat Hayes, the first African-American woman sergeant I had ever seen.
Carmen Best's success is no surprise to retired Sergeant Pat Hayes.
She was always just looking at the glass half full.
With Best's busy schedule, they aren't able to get together often, but today they reflect on a friendship and professional bond.
She's worked extremely hard. This is not a given situation. She earned this place where she is today.
In her first few years with Seattle Police, Best worked under Sergeant Hayes. Hayes recognized the chief's talents early on.
She made the point to become more and more educated about what the needs of the city were.
It was wonderful that there was this female supervisor, African American, who was there, running our squad and doing a wonderful job, by the way.
Carmen Best grew up in Tacoma and started working for the Seattle Police Department in 1992. In January of 2018, she became the interim police chief. And then in July, the mayor hired her for the permanent role.
We will move ahead with the culture of continuous improvement and innovation at the Seattle Police Department.
It's nice for the young people to see that as well, young women especially, because they know now that they have an opportunity to rise up.
But as Best reflects on this friendship, her heart is filled with gratitude and a sense of purpose.
As you rise up, lift someone up, someone's done that for me all along the way. Pat was one of the first, but there were several others, and I want to be that same type of influence to other people in our organization. It just matters.
The example I often use is my mom, and she was the first American Indian woman elected to the Montana State Senate. When she stood up on the floor, she was fierce, and giving voice and speaking truth to power and watching her do that really instilled in me the values of making sure that we are advocating for people who don't have a voice, that we are making sure that we are helping people navigate the system, and women in particular, to make sure that we pull them along and we offer those opportunities to follow us.
I'd say my mom as well. She was really a special person. First she had to raise 8 Durkins, which was not easy. And I can remember one time when I was in kindergarten, the school secretary called my mom and sent the Durkin girls home. 3 of us were in school at that time because we were in pants. It was snowing. My mom sent us to school in pants, and she said, you have to wear a skirt. So my mom sent us back the next day with our pants, but a skirt over it. So I learned there's always a way for a strong woman to do what she needs to do.
His name is Ed Gordon. He was my advisor for my dissertation at Yale University. He actually did peace marks with Martin Luther King. And he was a guy who had seen the very worst in life. And yet he really taught me to always look for the very best in people. He had confidence in me when I didn't have confidence in myself, and in his very quiet, gentle way, really kept me. I was very close to dropping out, and we're still very much in touch. He's in his 90s now. He's just been such an important part of my life, and at various steps along the way.
No doubt, Seattle city leaders are impressive, but so are thousands of other women throughout the region.
And it's a good marriage between the tech and the fashion.
The local company fulfilling a need for hundreds of working women and moms on the go across the country. Hello!
Also ahead, one half of Seattle's power couple, Sierra, stops by West Seattle to inspire young girls. Welcome back. The next woman we'd like to introduce you to graduated from MIT, but she doesn't fit the typical mold.
Meet the co-founder and CEO of Armoire.
Armoire is every woman's dream closet. My name is Ambika Singh, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Armoire.
From high-tech to high fashion, Armoire is a Seattle clothing rental service with massive brainpower. Ambika Singh is the founder, an MIT grad breaking the mold.
You don't fit the MIT stereotype? Is that terrible to say?
We actually got an award from MIT last year that was entitled the most unlikely startup to come out of MIT ever. So you're not wrong.
Okay, here we go.
That looks so good.
Oh, fun! I like it because it has pockets.
From a technology perspective, the way that we build that virtual closet for you is that we're using algorithms that try to understand your personal preferences.
Clients pay for a monthly membership to get access to this closet. Algorithms help discover what they like, but personal touches like Stylist make it human.
How do you become a stylist?
So I'm an electrical engineer by degree.
Wow!
Yeah, I worked in industry for about 3 years, and then I really was unhappy, so I quit my job and I started a fashion blog. And it's a good marriage between the tech and the fashion.
How does your business differ from like Rent the Runway or like Le Tote?
We're really focused on the professional woman and making her life easy. So the Rent the Runway experience is more of what we call the hunter-gatherer experience, where you hunt through all the millions of items and pick the one that's perfect for you. For the busy woman who often has small children, might be working in a job or might be working at home, time is a big premium for her, and so we're trying to make that experience more efficient. We really focus on things that you can wear every day.
That is sassy.
Yeah.
And another focus, the Seattle woman.
We have a bunch of local partners, and that kind of gives us even more of a flavor. So we do a lot of bombers and great denim, a good dress you could wear to work and maybe out to dinner afterwards, but it's got a bit more of a professional woman's vibe with a Seattle kick. Little known fact is that apparel is the second most polluting industry in the world, behind only oil and gas, and so I think a lot of the community is like, oh, I have too many things in my closet, like how do I make this simpler? And so that has really spoke to Seattle women as well as like the time-saving thing, because all of us are kind of running around.
This was so easy and it was so fun. Thank you so much.
I'm really excited to see you and
Can
your
I
new
have
things.
these now?
I love it. I love that Michelle's having so much fun.
She always does.
Now, Ambika says that Armour's technology is the key to standing apart from their competition. And obviously, Seattle is no stranger to tech-related jobs.
And one company is making sure those jobs are filled by local students, and they have some star power helping them out.
At Cascade Middle School, classrooms are crowded with dozens of future leaders.
And then scrolling down.
And Mr. Mora's computer science class is teaching skills our world needs.
You just put the blocks in a certain order.
12-year-old Supreme Wallace is one of the students learning to code.
I used to not be into computers, but when I came in here and I started learning about what you could do with just a simple code, like just some typing, you can make a whole website.
The Bureau of Labor Statistics projects by 2020 there will be 1.4 million computer science-related jobs, with only 400,000 graduates with skills to fill those positions. It's even more difficult for women in tech. Historically, women make up only 26% of the tech workforce. These teachers hope to provide opportunity for all.
Even just in our local neighborhood, we have Amazon, we have Microsoft, we have Boeing.
Amazon sees the potential in these kids. In fact, in November, they started a Future Engineer program, and today that program paid this class a visit.
We know how important computer science education is to any type of career, and we really want to help everyone get access to that type of education.
The students knew Amazon was going to be here, but they didn't know about this next guest.
Hello!
One of Seattle's most powerful women, Sierra, had a message for these capable coders.
No dream is too big. Your dream starts and ends with you, right? And all it takes in life for you to succeed is you believing in yourself.
When she came over here, I was trying not to cry because that was embarrassing.
I just want to encourage these kids that were around the same age group that I was when I was younger pursuing my dreams to know that they can really do what they put their minds to.
As Sierra knows, these young, inspired minds are capable of so much.
Well, I'm so proud of you, ladies.
And as coders, they will lead the way.
I definitely believe that all these kids are special and that all these kids can be future leaders of our world.
And while we look to the future, it's also important to remember who led the way.
Here at King 5, we look no further than our own newsroom.
Our founder, Dorothy Bullitt, put King 5 on the air and on the national map in 1948, when this became just the 11th TV station in the nation. She was a pioneer with a vision. Another woman who led the way came on the air in 1971. Jean Enerson changed the face of TV news, becoming the nation's first female evening news anchor, changing what had been a male-dominated proposition. Viewers loved it, and her, and the ratings took off. Jean Enerson became the Queen of King.
I never thought about, am I the first, until decades later somebody wrote and said, yes, I'm writing a book, and I found out you're the first, and so that's great. But you're not focused on being the first when you're starting, because you're just trying to get the job and do the job.
I'm Mike James. I was an anchor at King Television from 1972 to 1993. You know, the most fun I had with Jean was during the commercial breaks. And we would chat and we would tell stories and we would give opinions about, you know, what we'd just seen or something. Thank goodness the mics weren't on at that point.
Mike James co-anchored with Jean from 1972 through 1993. Jean was the evening face of King 5 News for decades, taking viewers all around the world. She was the first American journalist to anchor a TV news program in the Soviet Union, and the first to travel to China. And for years, with her HealthLink franchise, she informed, reporting on the latest in medicine and medical research. A fixture in the television industry, Enerson paved the way for generations of young and aspiring female journalists. She retired after 47 years in 2014, but Jean Enerson is still very much a part of our King 5 family, forever the Queen of King.
In our next half hour, Seattle city leaders discuss issues facing women today, including the groundbreaking Me Too movement. Welcome back. This has been a historic year for women. Dating back to February, the second Seattle Women's March brought out thousands of people from across the state. And nationally, marchers took to the streets in Washington, D.C. and in cities across the country.
There was also the Me Too movement, survivors of sexual abuse and harassment letting their voices be heard. People all across the country joining together to speak up.
We asked Seattle's leaders to talk about the motivation behind the movement.
I think those are the Me Too movement, you know, just resonated with women because everybody can probably, likely has a story around that. And so it resonated on a deep emotional, personal level that then became running for office in record numbers or being involved or gaining leadership or speaking out, which is so important.
I remember the Women's March in particular, just the sheer numbers, and all of a sudden you don't feel like you're doing it alone.
And it was organic. People just came.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, people who weren't planning on coming, hey, you know, that looks pretty cool.
I thought it was just amazing and uplifting to see all those women in Seattle marching in support of one another and equity. It was a beautiful thing to see. And I hope that one day we won't need that, but certainly the fact is that while we still do need it, let's continue to push forward on those issues.
You know, they're saying you got to make it a movement, not a moment. And I think that's what we have to do, is sustaining that kind of energy is really important.
How do these recent movements help the progress of women? We asked Dr. Sutapa Basu, Executive Director of the Women's Center at the University of Washington, to weigh in on what it means, but also what needs to be done to keep the momentum.
I think what Me Too movement has done, it has, I think, number one, that it became a global movement where women loudly said, we are no longer going to be ignored or tolerate, you know, sexual harassment in the workplace as well as any place. I think the voices were very loud, more than in the past. And there's been some consequences of certain men stepping down a position of influence and power, right? In the past, we haven't seen that scale of consequences. There are little things that men can do, as well as, you know, women in position of power as well, to create workplace to make sure that women, people of color, everybody's welcome and be inclusive. So that's just kind of the basic, because when we talk about what can we do, people always think of these big things. You don't need to do big things. You can just be very mindful every day.
The Seattle leaders we spoke with aren't just unique in that they're women. 4 of 5 of them are members of the LGBT community.
And as a member of the LGBT community myself, I was curious, given their professional aspirations, was it more difficult to come out?
No. That's an easy one for me. I had the, I guess the honor of being embraced in the sheriff's office from 34 years ago till present. So that hasn't, but I've watched others struggle. The teachers I had growing up, right, and just so afraid of coming out of the closet because of how that would, you know, affect their teaching career. So I think that's those experiences that I've run into and seen for other people, how tough it can be.
I think it was harder in the early days. Once you're out publicly and you make those first leaps, I think it was easier because then people just knew you in that way. But you know, it was probably harder to come out to my mother, you know, the Irish Catholic mom.
When I ran for Congress in Montana, I was the first out gay candidate running for a federal office, and we had to really have that conversation with media and with other people who that was new to. And here, it's better. I still think we have a ways to go.
I mean, Denise is right. I mean, I was the first openly gay person nominated by a president to any Department of Justice position in 260 years. You know, so there's a lot that hasn't been done, and people were holding their breath to see if I would get confirmed. So I did.
And I honestly thought that this was not a position that they would ever hire an LGBTQ person for. At the end of the day, it's not really, it's about coming out, it's about talking about your life. I mean, you know, in the same way that, you know, that you might say something about, you know, my husband said, you know, I mean, it's not making, you know, when I mention, and I usually call her my spouse, I'm not making a political statement, I'm just talking about something that happened at home.
Coming up, we wanted to get to know these women outside of the job.
I'd say I'm the most hilarious person I know.
Plus, 1, 2.
A showdown on the court between WNBA champion Sue Bird and the Seattle mayor.
Welcome back. A drug epidemic, a looming budget deficit, and a rising gang violence are just a few of the problems facing Everett's new mayor.
And Cassie Franklin, their new leader, spoke with us about those problems and her love for Everett.
Good evening. I would like to welcome all of our guests.
Council chambers were more crowded than usual.
The Everett City Council meeting.
And the regular routine was replaced with handwritten ballots and a lot of buildup.
We narrowed it down to 6 finalists who came in this afternoon for interviews.
This is how the city of Everett is filling council seat number 4. 29 applicants narrowed down to 6, then 3, then 1.
So congratulations, Ethel McNeil.
A new council member sworn in. It's a unique way to start this meeting, and it's all happening because of Cassie Franklin.
I'm very excited.
Franklin is leaving council seat 4 to take over as mayor.
First elected female mayor of Everett.
The new leader is already taking a stand, saying no to the Tweakerville label some have placed on Everett because of struggles with drug addiction visible in certain areas of the city.
I think that does no one any good, and it is not in the best interest of our city. This is not, that name does not reflect Everett. Everett is a beautiful, vibrant place.
She acknowledges the hurdles ahead.
One of the bigger challenges that I'd like to focus on right off the bat is the gang and gun violence that we've seen recently.
But says her past has helped her prepare. She's the CEO of Cocoon House, a nonprofit that serves homeless and at-risk youth.
My work at Cocoon House, I dealt with things like homelessness, gang and youth violence, drug addiction.
And now a new role.
I'm very honored and proud to be sworn in tonight. And the Constitution and laws.
Cassie Franklin has the title of mayor and a list of tough problems to tackle.
To the best of my ability. To the best of my ability. Congratulations.
And Mayor Franklin says she has a 57-member team helping her identify short and long-term solutions for the city.
Casey, this next woman is a game changer for the community. She's a public school teacher named Farron Hauk. She quit her job and decided to start her own school.
Okay, ready?
Yep.
My name is Farron Hauk, and I am a teacher. I'm also the founder and head of school right now at Seattle Amistad School. A ver, ¿me vas a contar lo que estás haciendo?
is a place where kids who start school speaking Spanish aren't told to speak English.
¿Cómo suena? Ga. Mira. It's been hard work, and honestly, it's been a lot of, physically and just like a lot of hours, and I've, times when I'm just exhausted and I feel like, oh, maybe I'm the only one who cares about this. Cocina. Cocina. Muy bien. We have a mix of kids who are native Spanish speakers, native English speakers, and bilingual kids. If that's your first language, it's about being your whole self and not having to sacrifice any part of that for anyone.
The immersion school opened in Seattle's Central District 6 years ago. Farron had been a public school teacher, but felt the need to do more when her professional concerns became personal. Once her young son started going to school, they stopped speaking Spanish at home.
So then when my younger daughter came along, we felt like I just don't want to do that again. We don't want to have that. We want to create a community for her where she can grow up and be proud of this and develop this and feel confident in both languages, which is what I felt like my sons didn't have. What we know is that when children are able to maintain their language and develop a strong language, first language, their English is better in the long term. Correr. Muy bien. But the part I think that was unexpected for me was how important the community is and how much it has been, how important it has been for my family as well. Oh, I don't want you to put this. So we don't have investors, we don't have endowments, we don't have a lot of resources, but what we do have is everyone in our community who's willing to give what they have. Hearing families tell me that this is the place where they come to, it's their safe place, and hearing kids who feel like, who are so proud of themselves with what they're learning and what they're doing and what they're able to do, those are the kinds of things that sort of carry me through and make it worth all of the hard work.
It's really so true. A strong academic foundation is so important for women.
That's right. And there's an inmate at the Washington Correction Center for Women offering that hope for a better future.
Hi, my name is Tanya. We were so thirsty to learn. Like, we wanted to learn, and we tried correspondence courses after we wrote every education-related person in Washington State. Education is the one credible, researched thing that keeps people from coming back to prison the most often. Does something for you that just can't be taken away. It changes who you are as a person, how you think, how you see the world, how you see yourself. I made choices. I made choices that seemed like the only ones available to me. Hanging out on the streets and with guys that were in a gang and doing drugs and just being violent and allowing violence in my life. So, I got class valedictorian, and that's crazy. And I'm afraid that I won't be understood. I'll be known, but I'll be known for, at least for a little bit of time, for the person that I used to be. And I'm not that person anymore. I can't even access that person anymore, not in the same way as I inhabited her before. I want to be a teacher. I'm gonna be a teacher.
There's a saying that says that if you educate a woman, you educate a family, and if you educate a girl, you educate the future. And when people hear those kind of quotes, they think it's abroad. It doesn't apply here, but I always say, no, it applies here, right here in Seattle, because like we have a girls program, high school girls program. So most of these girls come from families where their parents have never gone to college, and what we do, we help them. It's a pre-college program, and 100% of our girls go on to higher education. And what studies show, these girls, they become women, they get their degree, and they go back and invest in their families and in their communities. And that's what we want, and that's how you build healthy communities. So education for girls and women are very important, because that gives them skills and knowledge to get good jobs, and then with that they invest in their families and communities and create better communities.
We see Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkan in a very official way most days, but we thought it'd be fun to take her back to her roots on a basketball court.
That's right. Long before Mayor Durkan was Seattle's first female mayor in nearly 100 years, she was Coach Durkan to a group of girls in Alaska back in the 1980s. So we called up her office and asked if she'd be up for a game of horse with a special guest. Oh, whoa, I guess I'll just see you out there.
Fine.
Foul.
Let's do this.
All right, are you guys ready to play? Here are the rules. Keep it clean, no biting, no messing up the moneymaker on both of you guys' side. All right, if you cuss, that's okay too. All right,
bleep it out.
Ready? We'll just bleep it out. 1, 2.
No! Her ball.
Nothing but net.
See if the bank's open. It's open.
Ooh, bank's open. S!
Stop! Okay, we had to have some element of surprise for you guys.
Okay.
So the winner of that round goes to you, Sue. So you can pick a question that you can answer or that you can give to the
It's like
mayor.
truth or dare.
I know, right? Dogs or cats? Why? I'm gonna go and answer this question.
Okay.
And the answer is dogs, and that's mainly because I'm allergic to cats. But plus dogs are just better. Cats are kind of creepy. Whose questions are these?
Stephanie's and mine.
Oh, because I thought it was like little kids. Like you asked the preschoolers.
You know, that's your worst shot.
Yeah. Not today.
Oh!
See what the preschoolers said then.
That's right.
What is something you do that drives your significant other crazy? I pass.
I tidy everything up sometimes before she's done. Like she'll go to get her glass, and it's like, what happened? She says, you Durkanized it.
Looks good.
Oh!
Who is a woman you look up to? This is easy for me. It's my mom, for sure. Had a great role model growing up. Both her and my sister. I got to give love to both.
When do we
You
start?
guys have drawn all the easy questions.
When are we starting?
Oh yeah, this is just a warm-up.
You got store. You got stove. She's at a stove.
Oh,
Oh, so close.
I get one mulligan.
One mulligan.
You guys are doing great.
All right, what is your hidden talent, and can you show us?
If I showed you, it wouldn't be hidden.
Hey, good answer. That sounds like a true politician. I like that.
Oh, come on, right? I will say the season is looking good for the Storm.
There it is. Short. Over the cameraman?
Over the cameraman, huh? Oh!
Defense, you got to stay there.
You have to have your back to me.
He needs a good angle.
came so close, but yet so far away. But we're going to trade, and next week it's going to be Mayor Byrd, and she's going to be awesome. A town hall meeting. Yeah. She's there.
It's so important to have fun.
So we know Mayor Durkin loves basketball, but what do some of the other female leaders do to unwind?
I'm curious, how do you relax?
You know, I grew up near Glacier National Park, and so I like being outside and hiking. And I mean, I always think about when I'm out in nature and I want to feel small and I need to know where my place is. You know, and get ego out of everything that's been going on. That's where I go to do that, is to make sure that I know my place in the universe.
Nature does it for me too. I mean, I remember growing up by Beverly Hillbillies, Jane Hathaway, you know, with the bird watcher, and that was the worst. Well, I bird watch, I confess. I don't keep a list. But there's something about just something that pulls you out and takes you out into nature and then slows you down.
What song do you put on when you're trying to get your energy up or kind of get you into a good mood?
I'm a now recent fan of Downtown. Love to see the officers in the community out there having fun. So I think it had over 6 million hits, and you know, like 3 million were mine. But I absolutely love that.
I might admit to actually being a couple of views on that one, yeah. Chief.
I like Cuban music. Big surprise.
I am so superficial in my music taste. Like I am like the top 40 hits of the 70s, 80s, 90s, and today. My favorite genre is top 40, probably with the 80s as the decade.
Oh, I still love disco.
Like if I need to really get pumped up or do something, I do still like to go to Bruno Mars' Uptown Funk.
I think music's a mood thing. Like if you want to be sad, you put on that sad song. You want to pump you up. Any new,
don't be sad.
Yeah, don't be sad. Any kind of new sound system I get, I always play Al Green first.
If you could have dinner with one person, who would you have dinner with?
Michelle Obama.
Oh man, you took it right out. Yeah.
My partner.
Oh. I was going to say, given how little I've eaten at home, my spouse gets the nod too.
What is one thing people don't know about you that may surprise them? Hidden talent?
My secret is
how to say your last name.
That too.
Yeah.
I like to dabble in watercolor painting.
For me, it's not a hidden talent, but I think that it's interesting because a lot of people think about me as an extrovert, and I actually am not.
I'd say I'm the most hilarious person I know. I am. I really am. I like to laugh and I like humor, and I'm pretty funny when you get to know me.
People think of me as an extrovert, and I actually am an extrovert.
There you go.
But, news break. But you know, when I was in high school, I ran track, and our track team held the 4A record for the 4x400 for 28 years. I didn't even know we had the record for that long. And then one of my friends was telling me about it, and of course the next year somebody broke it.
Not everyone knows that I was the first woman Rainier beer in the TV commercials.
Why do the beers run?
That is so cool. Are you serious? The running of the beers, filmed right here in Seattle. Yep.
Wine or beer?
Wine.
Neither.
Sparkling water.
Diet Pepsi.
Okay.
Can we say brand names?
I'm the one to
Hey, I'm on too.
And you didn't have whiskey on the list because she was really disappointed.
That's great.
I'll add whiskey as an option.
Bourbon.
There you go.
There we go.
So obviously we had a lot of fun, but it was really, truly an honor to speak with each and every one of these women. And we also want to take a moment to thank women everywhere for all of the work they do on a daily basis.
And as we move forward into a new year, one thing is clear. In Washington, women will lead the way.
And that's what I'd say to, you know, any girl watching this is set your sights. Whatever you want to do, do it. You may not get there, but believe you can get there.